everyone probably presumes there is a wealth gap between older Americans and younger Americans. That would make sense. But this particular stat blew my mind. It is. Americans that are 65 and over have average net worths that are 47 times those 35 and younger. That seems really out there. We're not getting it done. What is getting in our way?
Ourselves.
Okay.
We're getting in our own way. The younger generation certainly is facing certain challenges, but ultimately it's habits, it's financial habits, and also a cultural difference in that generation between that work ethic and the entitlement philosophy that some of the younger generation has. They've had it a little easier than the older
Right.
generation. The older generation comes from parents that were in the Great Depression, and you know, they had one house that they owned for 25, 30 years.
Right.
That is not what's going on today. So, you know, it's some of these habits that we've been instilling in our children, and the younger generation, unfortunately, thinks, you know, things aren't going to be that tough. Things are going to be okay. We're going to, you know, I'll be taken care of. And what we're seeing is ultimately that they're not taking action on their own to get themselves in a better financial situation.
Gotcha. So it's a bit of ignoring reality, or a reluctance to, I've heard you say, look in the mirror. I mean, I imagine that's in there.
Yeah, one of the things is we aren't even looking at our financial situation. You know, we need to go to college. Okay, what do I get the loan from? You know, that's really the next question.
Right.
It's can I even afford college? Now, I'm not trying to discourage anybody from going to college, but ultimately what is the reason for that net worth problem is most people in their 20s are beginning their financial lives hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in debt.
Right.
So they're really starting in a deep financial hole before they even get their first job.
Got you. So it's a basic lack of acknowledging their current situation.
Absolutely.
Okay, what else?
Well, I think, you know, a lack of financial literacy. I mean, it kind of goes back to not only understanding where their financial snapshot is, but ultimately, what do I need to do to get better at it? You know, some of it plays into the psychological game, but ultimately it's just basic, fundamental income, expenses, having financial discipline, and ultimately what are the steps to get me into a better financial situation. And thirdly is investment appetite. Is once if I know what I need to be doing, do I know myself enough to be asking the hard questions about what am I actually comfortable investing in? Is it stocks? Is it bonds? Is it mutual funds? Or is it something alternative to that? Maybe it's real estate. A lot of the younger population is interested in more of the alternative investments, as a matter of fact. So they've been, you know, because it's easier to understand, you know, how to make maybe money with a real estate property than it is on figuring out the PE ratio of a stock and whether or not it's valued properly. So I think investment appetite plays a big role, is understanding yourself enough to know and motivating you into that. The why factor is I'm only going to invest money if I feel comfortable, and the strategy needs to feel good to me. It needs to make sure that I understand it. So I think those are the three components.
Okay. Moving from that into these practical actions, I think the goal here is if we have an opportunity right now that someone could watch this video, our readers, and then turn it off, and they could have a few actions that they can put into practice and implement right now. Do you have a few of those that you can share with us?
Absolutely. The very first thing you want to do is take a very hard look at your monthly cash flow, and what I'd say is create a budget for yourself. That is the very first step in creating some discipline in the financial house. So you can't put a plan together until you know exactly where you're starting.
Okay.
You know, so you want to make sure you're looking at your income. You know, the salary that you're getting if you own a business. You know, let's look at what you're taking home every month. And then, of course, you want to break out your expenses as it relates to fixed expenses, things you have to pay. Right. You know, your rent, your mortgage, your car payment, things like that. And then your discretionary expenses. Because I hear all the time, JP, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Well, when we actually go through this exercise, it's not really that you're living paycheck to paycheck. It's just that you are making decisions, financial decisions with your discretionary cash flow that might not be putting you in a very good financial situation. Sure. So, you know, I might need to go to the club, and I need to, you know, go out to Vegas on a trip.
Some people consider those fixed expenses.
Some people do, especially the younger, especially the younger generation. Right. But so start with the budget. Okay. The second thing would certainly be to create a cash reserve for yourself. I think the recession, the last 3 to 4 years, has certainly forced Americans to take a very hard look at things like cash reserves, because if they have lost their job, they've been laid off, and they didn't have these things, they didn't have a 1 month reserve, 2 month reserve, any reserve, you can appreciate the importance of having a minimum of 3 months worth of living expenses in a accessible liquid account in case an emergency happens, or in the event that some of your current situation changes and you need some money. So that will be number 2, is create a 3 to 6 month cash reserve. And then of course the other thing that's fundamental about any wealth building strategy is to make sure that you have adequate protection. So you're going to want to look at all of your insurance policies. And again, this all depends on where you are in life. You know, if you're married and have kids, very important to look at life insurance and things like that. If you are single and you're in your 20s, you know, just make sure you're covered for your car. Make sure you have some of the, you might not have any survivor needs per se, but you at least want to make sure that your health insurance is covered properly, and that your car insurance and things like that. You know, maybe you have a home or renter's insurance and things like anything that can protect you from loss. Because if you're not adequately protected, guess where you're going to go to? You're going to go to your savings, your piggy bank, to cover those. And then if that piggy bank was earmarked for your retirement, or for the purchase of your first home, or for that next car, all of a sudden that little piggy bank is destroyed, just to make up for the emergency that just came up. So those would be the 3 action items, just to let the foundation. It's just like building a house. This is to lay the foundation to be able to then build every brick of wealth on top of it.
Okay, so that's the foundation. Those are 3 actions that you can take and that we can take as the younger generations immediately to build out foundations. Now, the next part of the video, we're going to talk about the architecture, not just the foundations.
The blueprint, huh?
The blueprint, the head game. We're going to play some chess.
Okay,
so here we go.
Awesome.